Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. We are continuing our conversations at EDspaces in Columbus, Ohio. We hope you're enjoying this series, and let's dive back in.
My name is Kelsey Jordan. I am the Associate Director of Pre-K-12 at Leggett Architects.
All right. So you've been on before. We've had these discussions before. So I'm gonna go deeper here. I'm gonna go in here, and then we're gonna start with this question, and then I know there's another one that that you don't want to answer, and I'm gonna force you to answer it. So, all right. So how do you ensure all voices, students, staff, families, and community are heard and valued during the early stages of a project?
Sure. So this is one of my favorite things to do with people because it's all about interaction and connection and communication. So one way to do this is making sure that we are speaking the same language that everybody wants, because if you're not understood, you're not heard, your values aren't there. So how do we break everything down to, for instance, in students, an age-appropriate level? Because a high schooler is going to have one thing to say versus a kindergartner. So there's very difference there. Staff, same thing, and families and community. It's all about breaking it down to their core values so we can meet that need better.
Nice. All right. So what? Just tell me, what else has been going on? What are the things you're thinking about?
Well, some of this actually. So I've really been focused on engaging communities and helping them understand how an architect and how an educational planner can help them in their future and visualize and think and move forward. It's amazing when you're able to help a district transform their ideas, because we know they only have so much finite money and finite space at times. So how can they take what they have and expand it in a way that's available within their means? So with this too, in your communication question, trying to hit on like our CSBOs, our chief school business officials, business managers, that they want something that's financially responsible, but our facility director wants something that's maintainable and easy to use. So how can we meet all of that together?
Yeah. We've been having a lot of discussions around the idea of missed opportunities when these communities have a once in 50-year opportunity to rebuild or to build a new school, to renovate, to really impact. What are some of the things that you're seeing are missed? Like, if you can wave your magic wand, like what are the things that are happening or preventing these projects to like fully transform what education looks like?
Sure. So I think it's a situation of you don't know what you don't know. So if you have the pedagogy that's more of an old school pedagogy and how you're looking at space, then you're missing those opportunities for the play-based learning or Montessori or whatever that might be to engage the student. But you're not seeing that in some of those facilities that are older. And unfortunately, too, I think it comes down to the situation where you have to look at the school not only from the warm, safe, dry aspect with the facilities. Okay, well, the facility's standing, it's warm, safe, dry, but is it educationally adequate? Maybe not. Maybe not with how we're looking at space now. So if we look and take that educational adequacy aspect and put it into the buildings as well, that's really what I think needs to be seen and missed. Otherwise, I think what happens is we end up at community engagement or master planning meetings, and you find people grasping at straws and not able to dream big because they're so used to, well, I have to ask for storage in my room now or I'm never going to get it, versus, man, I would really love this space to expand and engage and do all these fun things.
Yeah, one of the sessions that I was in really talks about this change management. It hit me because it's something, like I've been thinking about and talking about a lot within our team and within the industry of getting people along. How do you bring people along? And they had a really great analogy of first order change and second order change, and how first order change can be like just the understanding of like, okay, I understand that something needs to be there. But the second order change is really that emotional change that is really like, those are the hard things of like, it's like the emotions of like, I'm losing something or I'm giving up something. And I thought it was a really good way to frame it, and how the same aspect can be viewed from, by different people. Some people that's a first order change, some people it's a second order change. So it started reframing for me. I'm like, we talk about this all the time, but sometimes this is the first time that a teacher had ever heard about it before.
Yes. And I think too that emotion sometimes gets undervalued because we recognize that when people have that emotional attachment to something, it's become memorable for them and it's actionable. So that a memorable item, that emotion, can then allow that person to have whatever that thing is become their story. And they're going to back it versus, oh, well, I got you storage. Isn't that cool? How to make it even greater and more interactive. But that sounded like a great session that you were in.
Yeah, it was good. It got, I mean, like obviously, we're thinking about this and doing this all the time and saying like, man, like the way to connect the built environment, learning and instruction with the interior environment, like this combination of the three is really kind of at the heart of what we're building around this radically student-centered approach. Like, this is hard. I mean, it is hard if it has to be thoughtfully done, and it has to bring people in, just like our question did, of getting those voices in early, because we may say like, this is great. All the research says, the built environment should look like this. But if we don't get all three voices together and really integrate that together, we miss the opportunity.
Oh, I agree. And I would even expand that farther and say it's not just about the student, staff, families, community voices. It's about getting the introverted and extroverted voices too, because we recognize, and so for instance, there was a time where I was doing an engagement and the extroverted voice in the room was a coach. And they were very vocal about wanting everything and had their whole table convinced that they were going to spend millions upon millions of dollars on brand new athletic fields for everything. But she was so vocal in all of it. But instead of recognizing and setting those goals and hitting the values of everybody in the room, especially our introverts that are more introspective and able to formulate those ideas and get those really thoughtful opinions out. And they had great ones because they were all about student-centered space and how we need to enhance our curriculum through different ways. And so that, I think, is super important too, to get all the voices.
Yeah. And along those lines here is that we've been talking the analogy of like the taxi industry and Uber. And I don't know, are you old enough that you've taken a taxi? You have taken a taxi. Okay. So think about this from the way of like the first order and the second order change of like, before Uber came around, there were these yellow taxis that were really hard to get. You had to like either like stand on the road and hope one came by that didn't already have a passenger and like wave them down to stop them, or you had to go to like this taxi stand, or you had to go to a payphone or call somewhere and say, can you come pick me up? But before Uber existed, nobody really framed the problem of there's an easier way to get from point A to point B. And then when Uber came about, it was a big shift, and there was a lot of resistance. First coming of like, how can I trust this random person? Like there was trust that these taxi drivers were like background screened and vetted, and we don't know if they were or not, but it was that trust. And then it came to the level of like, okay, well now a new way is there. And then the old way fought it. All the taxi, like there were literally like boycotts of Uber and Lyft and saying that, like they can't do this. And now we're at the point where, would you even think to get in a taxi, or it's Uber?
Right. I typically do the ride share if Lyft or Uber versus a taxi, just because of the convenience every time. So yeah, very true. But I do still hear that resistance of, well, someone could kidnap you in the Uber. Well, I'm sharing my location the whole time. I guess they're going to know until they throw my phone away. I don't know. But yes, it's really formulating that old school thought And it's in schools too.
It's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a natural progression that there's going to be kind of the innovators, early adopters, an earlier majority, your bell curve. And there's just going to be some that you can be like, yeah, you still be like, no, I don't trust Uber or rideshare. I'm going to go taxi. And then there's others that, like I'm in Arizona and there are Waymos all over the place, which are self-driving. And that's a whole new level of order, change that comes about. So it's just understanding and meeting people where they're at and trying to recognize what's the logical discussion versus the emotional discussion that drives that change.
And I think you see that in schools too. And I think that's where educational commissioning as an aspect can really help. Where, at that end of that project, that if you give educators brand new tools in the form of furniture or a brand new room or something like that, we recognize as designers how that was supposed to be all put together and what we were supposed to do in that space and what our thoughts of their pedagogy was going to be. But that doesn't mean that everybody else in that process knows it. So I think that's also a missing part, is that commissioning and helping to bring the educators to the same level as the decision makers and understanding how to use their space. Otherwise, that bell curve is not working.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're going to have either the resistance or you're going to have people that just don't understand.
Right.
So I think that's important too.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Always good talking to you.
You too. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us for this special EDspaces edition of the Better Learning Podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and reminded you just how powerful student-centered learning environments can be. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone who's passionate about improving education. And as always, keep pushing forward, keep rethinking what's possible, and keep making learning better, one space at a time. We'll see you in the next episode.